How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Freddy or Not, where my name is Freddy and I am ready to dive into today's topic, which is Mortal Kombat! More specifically, the story of Mortal Kombat. You see, this video is part of a trilogy that will cover the entire story of Mortal Kombat, from the very first game all the way to MK1. Sounds redundant, but trust me, that's like 12 games plus all the spin-offs and the comics. So be sure to like and subscribe, because in this one, I'm covering the entire story of the arcade era of Mortal Kombat, aka MK1 through 4 and the spin-offs. Basically just the Legacy Collection, if we're being honest. Disclaimer though, I'm going to try to go in chronological order, so that does mean you're going to get hit with a lot of lore up front, but then things will calm down once we get into the first game. But with this, let's just jump right into it. At the beginning of reality, there's an entity known as the One Being. Alongside him are 6 Elder Gods, and the One Being feeds on these Elder Gods. There are also beings called Titans who are also there, but they won't be important for a long time. Anyways, the Elder Gods grew tired of having their essences fed on, and used these objects called Kamidogu to defeat the One Being and split his consciousness into the realms. As a result, the Elder Gods became the rulers of the realms, and life slowly began to emerge. At one point, millions of years ago, there was an Elder God named Shinnok. We don't know if he was part of the original 6, or if he was elevated to the position at one point, or if there were originally 7. We don't know. What we do know is that Shinnok is greedy and wants to rule over the new realm of Earth, thinking this would give him power unmatched. We get more details about his plan in MKX, so to find out what kind of power he was hoping to get, you're just gonna have to hold on for the MKX section. But regardless, Shinnok was pretty smart about his plan. He created an amulet that would allow him to enter Earthrealm without challenge, and keep the other Elder Gods from interfering. This amulet can also only be created once. Now, the first thing Shinnok had to do in Earthrealm is face Raiden, the God of Thunder and protector of the Earthrealm, appointed by the Elder Gods. Now, since Shinnok is an Elder God, he clearly outclasses Raiden. But even still, their battle was fierce and nearly destroyed the planet, plunging the Earth into centuries of darkness. In the end, Raiden won the battle by using Shinnok's overconfidence to be able to take the amulet from him. And with this, the Elder Gods became able to back Raiden up, and together they banished Shinnok to the Netherrealm, which is basically just the Mortal Kombat version of hell. Raiden would eventually call the humans together and order them to build a temple. This temple was where Raiden would keep the amulet under protection of 4 elemental gods: fire, earth, wind, and water. But this temple would eventually become lost to time. As for Shinnok, he was having a rough go of things in the Netherrealm. The realm's ruler Lucifer, as well as his minions, which included some people Shinnok sent to the Netherrealm himself, imprisoned him and tortured him for thousands of years. For the record, I'm pretty sure Shinnok is weaker now than when he was an Elder God. This all changed when he met a sorcerer named Quan Chi. Quan Chi, having heard about what happened to Shinnok, traveled to the Netherrealm. And Quan Chi offered Shinnok a deal. He'll free him and help him overthrow Lucifer in exchange for power and ruling at his side once he escapes the Netherrealm. Shinnok agrees, and after a war that lasted centuries, Shinnok killed Lucifer and took the throne. Now, transitioning on over to Outworld, that realm was ruled by the Dragon King Onaga, a terribly powerful man, held in legendary regard not only for his strength, but for his immortal dragon army. At the time, there was a man named Shao. This man was actually the same race as Raiden and Lucifer. It was likely the protector god of Outworld. Yet, under unknown circumstances, he lost his status as a god and became the mortal advisor to Onaga. But Shao secretly coveted the throne and poisoned Onaga, at which point he claimed the realm for himself, becoming the evil emperor Shao Kahn. with Kahn being the title given to the ruler of Outworld. Strange that Onaga didn't have it, maybe he was called Onaga Khan, we don't know. But under Shao Kahn's rule, Outworld became a wasteland. Now, thousands of years ago, an order of the wisest men from the Far East received visions of the dark realm known as Outworld. They learned that travel between the Earth and the newfound realm would someday be possible if the conditions were right. And knowing that an Outworld invasion was imminent, the wise men appealed to the Elder Gods. It was for this reason that the Elder Gods created a tournament called Mortal Kombat. This was a tournament that decides the fate of the realms. In order to conquer a realm, you must have 10 straight wins in Mortal Kombat. If you do so, the realms will be merged. If the defending realm instead gains 10 straight wins, the invading realm is prohibited from ever trying to merge the realms again. The catch here is that there's a tournament every 50 years, so it'll take 500 years, bare minimum, once Mortal Kombat is initiated. But the winner of Mortal Kombat gains immortality till the next tournament. Although, most people from the other realms have lifespans that last tens of thousands of years, so for the most part, that's not really a concern. There are also plenty of other rules, but I have a whole video on that if you're interested. Anyways, Kahn is obsessed with conquest, and seeks to forever expand his territory, and eventually turned his sights on the peaceful realm of Edenia. Now, the realm of Edenia has a god named Argus. He is the protector of Edenia, and with his wife Delia, he had 2 children, Taven and Dagon. Together with the dragons Orin and Karo, they successfully repelled an invasion attempt by the Emperor of Outworld, although Kahn swore to return. Around this time, Delia saw a horrible vision of the future and concocted an elaborate plan to prevent what she called Armageddon. Part of this plan involved putting her sons Taven and Dagon to sleep to be awoken at a later time by an elemental she created named Blaze. But shortly after they fell asleep, Dagon awoke, and seeking to gain the great prize at the end of the contest, Dagon sought to manipulate the odds in his favor by murdering his parents. Some endings do imply they might have survived, yet they never really show up again, so either way, they are out of the picture. And now, Edenia is without its protector god. Taven is asleep, and Dagon goes off to who knows where. And this is where I'll leave the tale of these 2 brothers for now, but know they will be important in the future. Now, the loss of Argus would be especially felt when Kahn returned for conquest. Facing only mortal forces, Kahn killed the king of Edenia, Jared, and conquered the realms, eventually merging Edenia with Outworld, presumably with the Mortal Kombat tournament. And Kahn also claimed Jared's wife Queen Sindel as his bride, and adopted their daughter Kitana, lying to her and making her believe that Shao Kahn is indeed her true father. Now, long ago on Earth, the Shaolin monks used Mortal Kombat as a friendly Shaolin tournament for martial arts, a competition of honor and glory, when the soul-devouring sorcerer from Outworld named Shang Tsung entered the tournament on Shao Kahn's orders. This triggered the ancient rules of Mortal Kombat, with the stakes now being 10 straight wins equals the merging of the realms. And to everyone's horror, Shang Tsung won, and gained the title of Grand Champion. 50 years later, the great Kung Lao, a noble and mighty Shaolin monk, beat Shang Tsung at the tournament, and became the new Grand Champion, gaining a victory for Earthrealm. It's then heavily implied Shang killed one of the 3 tournament grandmasters and took his place. And at the next tournament, Shang Tsung invited an Outworlder and his former pupil to compete. Goro, the 4-armed Shao Kahn prince, who'd go on to defeat and kill the great Kung Lao. With Goro's victory, Shang Tsung alienated the Shaolin from their own tournament, and has run it himself for the last 500 years. And so far, Outworld has racked up 9 victories, only 1 more left until the realms will be merged. Now, remember the Temple of Elements? Well, the death of the great Kung Lao would have severe ramifications beyond the obvious. The Temple of Elements that held Shinnok's amulet was lost to time. But one day, some Shaolin monks discovered a map that told the story as well as the way to the temple. Only a select number of Shaolin monks were told the story of this map, however, but that included the great Kung Lao. And when Shang Tsung devoured his soul, he gained his thoughts and memories, which included the story and location of the map to the Temple of Elements. Back in the Netherrealm, centuries passed and Quan Chi had run out of ideas to free Shinnok, when Quan Chi met a sorcerer named Shang Tsung. And Shang explained that he has a plan to assure his master Shao Kahn will be able to conquer Earth, but he needs Quan Chi's help. You see, Kahn conquered Edenia and married Queen Sindel, but the thought of serving Shao Kahn drove her mad, and she took her own life, in the process creating a barrier around the Earth, one that prevented Shao Kahn from invading. Enraged by this, Shao Kahn withheld her soul from moving on to a higher existence, and instead held it as his own prized possession. And now Shang Tsung plans to have Shinnok take Sindel's soul, taint it with evil, and reincarnate it on Earth, so Shao Kahn can step through the dimensional gates separating the two realms and reclaim his queen, thus enabling him to overtake the Earth and bar Raiden and the Elder Gods from intervening. Although doing this will take a few years. But in exchange for Shinnok's help, Shang Tsung will tell Quan Chi the location of the map to Shinnok's secret amulet. And with this, the deal is made, and the sinister plots enacted. Quan Chi, now with this information, wants to go get the amulet, but he's scared. However, not of the elemental gods, but of Raiden, who may assist if he hears the elemental gods are in trouble. So Quan Chi needs to find a human who's capable of infiltrating the Temple of Elements. Meanwhile, in Asia, there's a secret clan of assassins called the Lin Kuei. Their warriors are chosen from birth to be raised as Lin Kuei warriors, and they all possess certain skills and abilities that are passed on from generation to generation. And in Japan, there's a rival ninja clan to the Lin Kuei, created when a Japanese-born Lin Kuei named Takeda developed the art of ninjutsu. He returned to Japan to offer his services to the lords and generals during the feudal period, and people copied his style and spread it throughout Japan. Now, while ninjas don't have mutated powers, they make up for it with the use of weapons. Now, ninjas are not one clan. They are a loosely connected spy network made up of several small clans. And one such clan is the Shirai Ryu, with the founder being Takeda himself, also making the Shirai Ryu technically the first ninja clan ever. This in turn made them the enemies of the Lin Kuei, and they ordered Takeda's assassination, but he managed to evade his attackers all the way until he was old, where he was killed in his sleep after they slipped poison into his tea. Nowadays, there's a man who was born in America. His name is Bi-Han. He's the oldest of 3 children, including a brother and a sister. His mother wanted a normal life for her sons who had been chosen by the Lin Kuei, so she tried to hide them from their father, who's an undercover Lin Kuei in America. But their father found them and kidnapped the boys and brought them to the Lin Kuei, and Bi-Han never saw his mother or sister again. There are theories that Frost is the sister of Bi-Han, however, and that they are just unaware of this, but that is just a theory. But Bi-Han, a 4th generation Lin Kuei, had the ability to harness the elements of cold, and the Lin Kuei Grand Master chose him to become the next Sub-Zero, after his father died. One of Sub-Zero's first mission was to go to a Shaolin temple and steal a map to the Temple of Elements, something that would be complicated due to a Shirai Ryu member named Hanzo Asashi, also known by the codename Scorpion. Hanzo learned his techniques from his father, who was a ninja. His father, however, forbade Hanzo from becoming a ninja, wanting him to have a normal modern-day life. But the lure of quick money and his wish to afford his wife and child the finest in life eventually led Hanzo to join the Shirai Ryu. His latest mission is to infiltrate the Shaolin Temple and steal the Map of Elements. Something that takes us straight into the events of the game Sub-Zero Mythologies. This is a spin-off of the Mortal Kombat series, and it is not a fighting game, but rather an action-adventure game. It also has live-action cutscenes, which is an amusing way to handle cutscenes in a series that, up to this point, used digitized actors. Now, as the title suggests, this game follows Sub-Zero, starting off in the Shaolin Temple, where Sub-Zero is tasked with stealing the Map of Elements. But upon reaching the object he seeks, he's confronted by Scorpion, who's also there for the map. This inevitably leads to a fight, but this fight ends with Sub-Zero winning and killing Scorpion, uppercutting his head clean off. In action he would come to regret in the years to come. Sub-Zero then steals the map and leaves, going back to the Lin Kuei where he sees the Grandmaster and presents the Map of Elements. There, he's approached by none other than Quan Chi. Sub-Zero claims Quan Chi tipped Scorpion off and that there wouldn't have been a battle in the first place if he didn't do so. Quan Chi claims Scorpion was insurance in case Sub-Zero failed, revealing that he indeed did hire both clans for the same mission. The Grandmaster puts an end to their bickering, and Quan Chi pays for the mission with the bones of Scorpion's ninja clan, which Quan Chi killed. And the Grandmaster is happy about this, having killed their ancient enemies with only one transaction. And Quan Chi clarifies that every last remnant of their clan has been eliminated. Forever. Leading the Grandmaster to tell Sub-Zero, "See? You can trust the sorcerer sometimes." Sub-Zero is then immediately hired by Quan Chi again. This time, Sub-Zero must use the map to go to the Temple of Elements in the Himalayas and steal the amulet. Claiming Sub-Zero with his ice powers has an advantage to defeat the elements. Upon infiltrating the temple, he fights Fujin, the god of wind, and wins. But even though Fujin literally blows up, he will later claim that Bi-Han ran away. Something that, if true, would only mean he sucks at his job if he's letting people escape further into the temple. Sub-Zero, after winning, is transported to a different area where he fights the God of Earth, who's a big stone guy, and he once again prevails, proceeding to the next area where he faces the Water God, and then in yet another area, the Fire God. After defeating all 4 elemental gods, he goes to claim the amulet, but before he can, Quan Chi shows up and takes it. What an a-hole! Sub-Zero's literally here to get it for him. Why did he have to be such a
I have Shinnoks' amulet.
Whose amulet?
He is my deity, ruler of the Netherrealm, and soon destroyer of your Earthrealm.
Why would you say that? Just shut up!
This amulet, it is the key to Shinnok's power as an Elder God. When returned to him, he will regain his powers and be freed from the confines of the Netherrealm.
I thought Shao Kahn was the...
Shao Kahn is nothing but a peasant ruler of a long-dead realm. Shinnok is the destroyer of all realms, including Khan's outworld.
Why are they talking about Khan?
You are insane. That amulet isn't worth the bronze it's molded from.
Believe what you will, Sub-Zero. Goodbye, Ninja.
For the record, he hates being called ninja since Shirai Ryu are ninja. He is Lin Kuei. After Quan Chi leaves, Raiden arrives. Sub-Zero tries to justify his actions, saying he's just earning his living, but Raiden says,
"Your clan's ignorance and greed will cost this entire realm. You'll now have to set things straight."
Quan Chi could simply be a lunatic sorcerer. I never heard of an elder god named Shinnok, or of a place called the Netherrealm.
You better start believing in both, because you're going to the Netherrealm, and you're going to bring back the amulet. We must act quickly. I have no dominion in the Netherrealm. You are reality's only hope.
this is interesting because they will frequently play with the idea that Raiden can only use his powers on Earthrealm. But this is blatantly not true. We will in fact see Raiden use his powers in the Netherrealm at a later point in this same series. So he's really just forcing Bi-Han to do it because it's his fault, and he's just pretending to be helpless. Either way, Bi-Han says he'll help, but only because he doesn't have a choice. And Raiden makes a portal and tells him to follow Quan Chi and make sure Shinnok doesn't get the amulet. He also says to beware the Brotherhood of Shadows. And finally, that the Netherrealm is a place of lost souls, so if he fails, his soul will belong there. Bi-Han then bows to Raiden and leaves through the portal. And on the other side, he finds himself in a prison with a weird guy, who says to give it up. You are here because you're rejected from your realm. And Sub-Zero says, no, I was sent. And the guy's like, whatever. Either way, you can't exist here unless your soul contains the impurities of evil. Bi-Han then asks the man if he tries to escape, and he says, oh, I'll be leaving here shortly, but first I must play Raiden's game. And he disappears. At that moment, Scorpion shows up, and Sub-Zero says, who are you? Acting like he wasn't wearing the exact same outfit from earlier. And then Scorpion says,
I am Scorpion. You killed me in cold blood. I had no choice. You could have let me live. Then I would be the dead one. But my clan and family would still be alive. What? It wasn't enough to kill me. You had to destroy every last remnant of my being, including my wife and child. You're mistaken. Quan Chi is responsible for their deaths. Words will not save you. Lin Kuei, a warrior.
And a fight begins, and Bi-Han whoops Scorpion for the second time, and moves on with his day. Now, this is a retcon, as Scorpion in the games takes a while to find out about his family being killed. But I guess because of this game, he finds out pretty early on. And at Bi-Han, while escaping, is spotted by the Sisterhood of Shadow, Kia, Jataka, and Serena. They're like, a mortal is here, but no mortal can be here with their soul intact, unless Shinnok allows it to be, and Serena tells the two of them to continue to track him while she informs Quan Chi. She then teleports him and explains that a mortal has escaped from the prison of souls and is headed back for the Sea of Immortality. A mortal with the ability to freeze. And Quan Chi tells her to alert the keepers and send a full garrison. He must not cross the bridge. Serena questions sending the keepers since he's just a mortal, which, is this concern for him, or is she just worried that this is overkill? Either way, it seems she shouldn't have been worried as Sub-Zero beats the keepers. Sub-Zero then encounters and fights the Sisterhood of Shadow one by one. First Kia, then Jataka. Is this love at first sight? If you know, you know. And then finally, Serena. After cleaning house, Sub-Zero then finds Quan Chi, who claims he's too late, as he's already given the amulet to Shinnok, before saying,
Don't you realize why Raiden sent you? The Netherrealm is a place for evil beings. You cannot exist here unless you were tainted with evil. You belong here. Join my brothers of the Shadow and worship our Lord Shinnok.
Never, sorcerer!
And Sub-Zero begins the fight against Quan Chi. During this battle, Serena shows up and uppercuts Quan Chi off the bridge. And while falling, he explodes. In case you are curious, yes, he survives this somehow. Seems exploding is a mild inconvenience. Bi-Han then asks Serena why she helped him, and she says he is still immortal. That means he can escape the Netherrealm. And he says, only if I get the amulet. And she says, take me with you, I've waited an eternity to escape. But as he tries to explain that he can't leave without the amulet, she is struck from behind by a beam and collapses in Bi-Han's arms. And the attacker is shown to be Shinnok with the amulet. The Cryomancer begins his battle against the fallen Elder God, and like Raiden before him, during the fight he takes the amulet from him, and Shinnok turns into a giant monster thing. He fights the monster and wins, and Shinnok falls off the bridge. Then, Bi-Han uses the amulet to create a portal and escapes, giving the amulet to Raiden, and Raiden says,
Impressive, Sub-Zero. Perhaps you'll reconcile your reckless past after all.
That's it? Not even a thank you?
Thank yourself for undoing a problem that you created.
Quan Chi told me that you sent me because my soul was tainted with evil. Is that true?
You are a superb warrior, Sub-Zero. Only you can control your destiny. Not even the gods can alter your chosen path in life.
Was that a yes? Or a no?
That was a yes. But only you can change it.
After completing this mission, Sub-Zero goes back to the Grandmaster and vows to serve and obey the Lin Kuei. The Grandmaster says his exploits caught the eye of another sorcerer. Meet the retainer of your talents, Shang Tsung. He would like you to compete in a tournament called Mortal Kombat. It's eventually revealed someone else also hired Sub-Zero to kill Shang Tsung at the tournament. Who hired him is a mystery, but maybe it was Raiden. Why not, right? I mean, he knew Sub-Zero and worked with him before. Plus, making Sub-Zero fight for Earthrealm is a good play. Either way, in 2 years, when the time comes, Sub-Zero will have been paid by Shang Tsung to compete in the tournament, and paid by someone else to kill Shang Tsung while he's there. But with this, the game has come to a close. We know that Bi-Han continues his association with his clan after this, but it is notable that in one of his first missions, he's informed of the evil in his soul, and only time will tell if he will be able to go down the path of redemption that he desires. Moving on, we arrive at Special Forces. This game takes place 2 years after Sub-Zero Mythologies, shortly before the events of the first Mortal Kombat game. We follow Jax, someone rumored to be one of the strongest men alive, who works for a clandestine government organization known as the Special Forces. Now, Jax hates a man named Kano, a criminal with a cybernetic eye and the leader of a criminal organization known as the Black Dragon. Jax wants revenge for the slaughter of his Special Forces comrades at the hands of the Black Dragon. RIP Lieutenant Sanchez, gone but never forgotten. Interestingly, this game describes Kano as Jax's hated rival, even though he's actually more of a rival to Jax's partner, Sonya Blade. She was originally supposed to be a playable character in this game, but they were strapped for time, and honestly, I believe like 90% of the development team had to leave this game before it was finished, so this game is really held together by duct tape and faith, if we're being honest. Later games do fill in a bit of context here, explaining that Kano was a double agent inside the Special Forces and led to a lot of deaths. In multiple adaptations, they have Kano having killed Sonya's partner, but it was only in MK11 that they finally canonized that. Ultimately, Kano came face to face with Jax, and it becomes clear that Jax was the one who took Kano's eye. Anyways, at the start of the game, a female agent named Gemini, originally this was supposed to be Sonya, but we know how that turned out. Anyway, Gemini informs Jax of a breakout at the Special Forces Maximum Security Facility. It seems Kano has broken out several members of the Black Dragons, including No-Face, who has vast knowledge of explosives and incendiary devices, Tasia, a deadly but beautiful ninja master, their words, not mine, Tremor, the guardian of the gateway. He has a powerful style and blind loyalty to Kano. Tremor's also someone who will become important way later on. And finally, Jarek, one of Kano's most trusted allies who is also a student of Kano and is head of security. All of these guys will show up again in some capacity after this game, except for No-Face, whose only other appearance is in the movie Snowblind, but that movie is not canon to the main story. Although, I will point out that literally every member of the Black Dragons shows up in that movie except Tasia, which is kinda funny. Did he forget? After their breakout, these guys are hiding out in a warehouse, and Jax heads there and starts taking them out one by one. It's eventually revealed that the Black Dragons are trying to put on a respectable face by using a corporate building as a cover for their operations. Jax finds their base and discovers Kano has gone to the lost city of Sin Kang. There, Kano has found an ancient gateway that takes him to another dimension. Jax follows him through the portal, and Kano reveals that the other members were just pawns meant to slow Jax down, and that he is actually after an artifact known as the Eye of Chidian, which he thinks he can use to conquer the world. And as it turns out, the Eye of Chidian can make portals to other realms. So, after beating Kano, Jax uses it to take them back to Earthrealm. And In terms of the plot, that's it. But as a final thing to note here, Jax has his metal arms in this game, seemingly confirming that like in the movie, they are not prosthetics, but just something he wears over his regular arms. As in his next appearance, Jax will have regular arms, he didn't regrow them. But enough preamble. It's finally time. Time for Mortal Kombat! And we head straight into the pages of the 1992 MK comic book. And like I said, the time has finally come. 500 years have passed, and the evil soul-stealing sorcerer Shang Tsung is on the verge of claiming Earthrealm for his emperor Shao Kahn. But the greatest threat in his path is a warrior known as Liu Kang. After the death of the great Kung Lao, the Thunder God Raiden teamed up with the Shaolin Order of Light, aka the Shaolin Monks, to form a group known as the White Lotus Society, a top-secret organization where the Thunder God and the monks hand-select a group of champions from among the best fighters in Earthrealm. This group would dedicate their lives to learning and understanding how to defend the independence of Earthrealm from the threats of other worlds. The Shaolin monk Liu Kang was once a member of the White Lotus Society, but left to go represent the Shaolin temples in the Mortal Kombat tournament. And most likely due to mastering his chi, he has the ability to conjure fire. He is strong in his beliefs and despises Shang Tsung. But Shang Tsung is aware of Liu Kang, especially since it was he who invited Liu Kang to compete in the first place, believing that if he can eliminate the monks champion, then the monks will have no hope of ever regaining the tournament. But Liu Kang is not the only competitor, however. We also have the world-famous actor, Johnny Cage. Cage was a martial arts superstar trained by the greatest masters around the world, and he used his martial arts talents on the big screen to become a box office champ. But as shown in a lot of adaptations of the story, the public believes Johnny's skills are all just special effects and stunt doubles. So when he gets the invitation to compete in Mortal Kombat, he sees this as a perfect opportunity to show off his skills. The next person to accept the invitation was the recently escaped leader of the Black Dragons, Kano. Fun fact, Kano is Japanese, but after the amazing performance in the 1995 movie, Kano now speaks with an Australian accent. Hilariously, the actor isn't even Australian. In this game, Kano's on the run from some special agent forces and starts shooting at Agent Sonya Blade and her partner who's pursuing him. But he makes his escape by hopping on the boat taking them to the tournament. But Lieutenant Sonya Blade decides to follow Kano and not let him escape justice. Finally, Shang Tsung challenges Raiden, God of Thunder, to accept his invitation and join the tournament, leading Raiden to take the form of a human to compete in the tournament. This being the only way he's allowed, as this is Mortal Kombat. On the boat, Kano tries picking a fight with Johnny Cage, but after Liu Kang goes to step in, Johnny stops him and unleashes a shadow kick and beats Kano. He does this by tapping into some weird green energy that will become important in like 10 games, after which Liu Kang beats Kano's men. But while Liu Kang and Johnny Cage get better acquainted, behind them is the cryomancer Subzero. In his ending, we find out he plans on retiring from his dangerous profession after collecting his payday from killing Shang Tsung, something I assume also ties into his desire to purify the evil in his soul. But behind Sub-Zero, we find the ghostly specter known as Scorpion, seeking revenge on Sub-Zero for having murdered him exactly 2 years ago. His demons allowed him to return to avenge his death, and he plans on killing Sub-Zero at the tournament. Upon arriving at his island, Shang Tsung reveals that he captured Lieutenant Sonya Blade, who's pursuing their ship, and now her life, like all the contestants, depends on her performance in the tournament, as do the lives of her companions. And with her team being held hostage, Sonya realizes she has no choice but to become the final competitor of Mortal Kombat. And with this, the tournament begins. This comic also gives us some information about the characters, like Johnny Cage's real name being Johnny Carlton, and the fact that he's divorced. Sonya has a deceased twin brother, and just for the record, Sonya can fire projectiles made of pink energy. And in MK9, they clarify that she's able to do this by using a high-tech weapon attached to her wrists. we find out Liu Kang's Chinese, has a brother, and is a fisherman. Interestingly, his parents are deceased and his brother disappeared. In later adaptations, they'll have Shang Tsung or Outworld forces be responsible for killing them, with the implication here being that they're trying to stop Liu Kang before he becomes a threat. And finally, that Goro is thousands of years old and has hundreds of wives. God damn! Leave some for the rest of us! As for the actual game, there is a secret hidden boss in this one, a green ninja named Reptile, someone who would become important later. And speaking of hidden characters, in the audit section of the arcade version of Mortal Kombat, an item named Ermax was listed next to the Reptile's battles counter. This is simply short for error macros, but a rumor spread about a secret red ninja named Ermac. This rumor would explode when a magazine published quote-unquote proof of Ermac, which turned out to be a fake color-swapped image of Scorpion with the words Ermac wins. This isn't super relevant right now, but trust me, it will be important later. As for the actual tournament, the rules make absolutely no sense. Like, it doesn't even make sense from a logistics standpoint. The only people from Outworld are Goro and Shang Tsung, while everyone else is from Earthrealm, so the teams are already lopsided, and if it's one-on-one battles, are the Earthrealmers fighting each other? It makes no sense, but I have a whole video covering the rules of the tournament if you're interested. As for the actual game, you fight your way through the tournament before eventually fighting the sub-boss Goro and then the final boss Shang Tsung. And depending on which character you played as, you'll get an ending showing what would have happened if that character won. Like most fighting games at the time, what actually happened in the end is only revealed at the start of the next game. As such, let's turn our attention to the MK2 Collector's Edition comic from 1994. This picks up right at the tail end of the Mortal Kombat tournament from the first game, where it's revealed that the tournament proceeded until the one and only Liu Kang faced Goro. And not only that, he beat Goro. And Shang Tsung was outraged at this turn of events, screaming that he wants all their souls, sending Goro as well as a few hundred warriors to attack all the contestants. We then find Johnny Cage, Sonya, and Kano teaming up in a 3v1 against Goro, while Raiden, Sub-Zero, and Scorpion fight Shang's army. Meanwhile, Liu Kang goes ahead and fights Shang Tsung one-on-one. And the trio are just straight whooping Goro here, and Kano ends up knocking him out. But just then, the bridge they're standing on collapses. Raiden, who can fly, saves Johnny Cage and explains that the island is self-destructing as a result of Shang Tsung's death. Meaning, Liu Kang has done it. He has beaten Shang Tsung and become the champion of Mortal Kombat. And if the numerous adaptations are to be believed, then Liu Kang beat the sorcerer with his patented flying kick, saving the Earthrealm in the process. And not to worry, Liu has already escaped the island. While this went on, Scorpion confronted the man he came here for, ultimately getting his revenge and killing Sub-Zero. I told you Bi-Han would regret killing Hanzo. An action he performed on one of his first missions ever literally ended up being the death of him. We know Bi-Han's soul was destined for the Netherrealm, but with 2 years having passed, we can only speculate whether he did enough in that time to spare him that fate. But the fact that he was planning on living an honest life after the tournament only goes to make this all the more tragic.
That's a shame. He had 1 day left till retirement.
In any case, Raiden makes a portal and the combatants narrowly escape the island's explosion. At this moment, I'd like to mention that according to Johnny Cage's ending, Johnny learned the true importance of fighting skills and goes on to make movies based on the tournament that he calls Mortal Kombat. Something that is likely true based on events from future games, as they reference making sequels to this movie. Meaning, he most likely actually did make Mortal Kombat within Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombatception over here. And also, after Liu Kang beat Shang Tsung, the contest was indeed returned to its rightful hosts, the Shaolin Temples. Anyways, Johnny Cage is now floating in the water when a man on a boat picks him up and immediately points weapons at him, demanding he explains what happened. The one who kidnapped Cage is the one and only Major Jackson Briggs, aka Jax from Special Forces. He's currently looking for Sonya and her team. Cage then explains what happened, and Jax lets him go. We then cut to the realm of Outworld, where as it turns out, Shang Tsung is still alive, and now has to answer for his failure. The king of the Shao Kahns is demanding Shao Kahn execute Shang Tsung due to the loss of Goro, who is presumed dead. But Shao Kahn says they must look past the champion's death for a moment, mentioning how he has ruled this realm for ages. His strength grows, but the realms cease to grow with it. He needs room for his powers to extend, and he currently can't set foot on Earth, and as such, gives Shang Tsung one last opportunity to explain why he shouldn't strike him down. And Shang Tsung says that they can initiate a new tournament, as any realm can exercise its right of challenge as long as it can breach the dimensional gates that separate it from other realms. Basically, the trick here is if you can open a portal, you can declare Mortal Kombat. So he tells Shao Kahn that he can open a portal again the same way he did 1,000 years ago, but only if his strength is restored. Adding that if they open a portal, they can send a small army in to accomplish both objectives, declaring Mortal Kombat and getting revenge for Goro's death. With this, the Shogun King offers Kintaro for the mission. The catch here being that Kintaro is a furry-looking Shogun, subjectively confirmed stronger than Goro. Shao Kahn at this point says Shang Tsung's life no longer exists in the Earth Realm, implying he maybe did die and this is just his ghost or something, and that he will now grant Shang Tsung a new physical form, one that will make him stronger, but if he fails this time, he will suffer eternal torture. Interesting strategy, rewarding the man who failed his mission, but I guess he is still currently necessary. And so Kahn sends this younger, stronger Shang Tsung on this mission to destroy the Shaolin temples and avenge Goro, sending Kintaro, Shang, as well as new characters Baraka, Kitana, and Mileena with him. As you may recall, Kitana was the princess of Edenia and has been raised by Shao Kahn to believe that he is her true father, and is currently Shao Kahn's personal assassin. We also have Mileena, who is actually Kitana's twin sister. And finally Baraka, who is a Tarkatan, which is a nomadic race of mutants from the Outworld Wasteland, who all have huge spikes protruding from their arms and crazy looking teeth. Baraka was chosen as part of Shao Kahn's army because of his fighting skills, and in fact, Baraka will be leading a horde of Tarkatans to attack the temples. Back with the Special Forces, Jax receives a message from Sonya saying that she and Kano are trapped in Outworld, and to find Johnny Cage and Liu Kang. Something that tracks since later adaptations will highlight these three becoming friends during their time on the island, really being the main trio of Mortal Kombat, especially during the first tournament. Anyways, we find Liu Kang, who has just returned home to the temple, only to find it in ruin. All the monks have been killed, except one, Kung Lao. Kung Lao is a former Shaolin monk and a member of the White Lotus Society, who left because he wanted to pursue a life of peace. He's also the direct descendant of the great Kung Lao. It is presumably named after him. I doubt it was a coincidence. And Kung Lao explains that Outworld committed this massacre, and that Kung Lao will fight at Liu Kang's side, with us later discovering that Kung Lao also wants to go avenge his ancestor. At that moment, a Lin Kuei ship arrives, and inside is Sub-Zero. But not the one we know. This man explains that he is Sub-Zero's younger brother, Kuei Liang, and we eventually find out that he was sent to finish Bi-Han's mission and assassinate Shang Tsung. Anyways, he starts talking about how they have surveillance footage of a young Shang Tsung saying he's going after Johnny Cage, and Liu Kang explains that Cage is a friend and that they are going to Hollywood. Here we find Cage filming a commercial when he's attacked by Kintaro, Baraka, Mileena, Kitana, and Shang Tsung along with an army. Kind of an unfair fight. While this is going on, Jax and his partner are trying to find Cage. when they see Cage go flying through the wall in front of them. Shang Tsung then blasts Jax with a fireball, but he just no-sells it. And this blast is also the reason why he's shirtless in the games, as his shirt burned off. And Jax, who's again rumored to be the strongest man in the world, just charges in and starts fighting off against Kintaro. Meanwhile, Johnny is fighting Baraka when the Lin Kuei plane arrives, with Sub-Zero telling Smoke, the Grey Lin Kuei ninja, to drop Liu Kang and Kung Lao off first. Kung Lao, who fights by throwing his hat, which is lined with a blade, he can also teleport with this hat. I'm assuming that's also Chi shenanigans. He arrives and evens the odds of the fight. Shang begins to speak, but Sub-Zero goes to get the drop on him when he's hit by something invisible. That's when Reptile appears. Reptile is a ninja whose human form is merely disguise, as he's actually a horrid reptilian creature with acid breath and the ability to turn invisible, whose race was thought extinct millions of years ago, and whose origins has ties running back to Earth. For you see, the Saurians, his species, were actually a race of hyper-evolved raptors, wiped out arguably during the battle with Raiden and Shinnok. The few Saurians who survived fled the Earth and arrived at the realm of Zatera, before that was conquered by Shao Kahn and merged with Outworld. Reptile is now one of the last of his species, proudly serving his emperor Shao Kahn. He was also the Green Ninja from the first game, as he was secretly Shang Tsung's personal protector lurking in the shadows, to stop all those who would do his master harm.
Well, you're doing a bad fucking job, man.
Anyways, returning to the plot, Reptile has intercepted Sub-Zero before he can fight Shang Tsung. But before this fight can continue, Scorpion makes his grand return, saying he will dictate when Sub-Zero's life ends. Saying that his life was ended by Sub-Zero, but he killed his murderer. But now, he has a new mission. Since he has taken a life, he will now devote himself to protecting one. AKA, he will protect the younger Sub-Zero to atone for killing his brother. It's explained that Scorpion was hunting the younger Sub-Zero, thinking it was Bi-Han, but then saw Kuei Liang spear an opponent and realized he is not the original Sub-Zero. And it was at that moment he decided to become his guardian to atone for his brother's death. It also definitely shows how little Scorpion thought of Bi-Han, that seeing him spare an opponent was enough to make him go, "Oh, that can't be Bi-Han, it must be his brother." Anyways, after hearing Scorpion's proclamation, Kuei Liang for a moment ponders whether he should try to kill Scorpion as revenge, but then decides against it. At this moment, lightning flashes and Raiden arrives, saying that the Elder Gods dislike skirmishes taking place outside of tournaments. And Shang Tsung says that he is here to challenge them to a tournament, saying they must accept or forfeit, and then makes his exit. In turn, Raiden tells Liu Kang that he will once again have to defend his title, and turns to Jax, Kung Lao, and Sub-Zero and says they were also preordained by the gods to fight. Jax says he'll have to ask his partner, but Johnny tells Jax that the Outworlders killed his partner. Enraged by this, Jax agrees to fight. Sub-Zero also agrees to compete, mainly probably because his mission is to kill Shang Tsung, and then Raiden says that they will head for combat in Outworld. And with these bold words, the Outworld tournament begins. A tournament significantly more dangerous, not only because they face stronger threats, but also because the Outworld forces have the home field advantage. Before we talk about the actual game, I want to clarify, just because I know people will ask, I'm not going to cover Shaolin Monks, as Shaolin Monks is not canon. There are too many differences to the game timeline for that to be the case, so I'm not counting it. Anyways, like last time, you pick your character, fight your way through the tournament before facing the sub-boss Kintaro and final boss Shao Kahn. While we're talking about this game, I feel like I should mention that this game, on top of having fatalities, adds the babality, which turns your opponent into a baby, and the friendship, where you can do something nice to your opponent rather than kill him, which was created in response to parents saying the game was too violent. We also get some cameos in the background of certain stages, like in Khan's Arena you can see Kano and Sonya in chains, And in the background of the pit too, you can see someone fighting a guy on fire. The fans in turn dubbed these two Torch and Hornbuckle. I should also mention that there's a stage known as the Living Forest where the trees are alive. There is an explanation as to why, but it won't come until much later on. Much later on. And like last time, there are also hidden characters in this game, namely Smoke, Noob Saibot, and Jade. Like Reptile, the story behind these three will be fleshed out in later entries, but for right now, I'll just mention that in the Living Forest stage, both Smoke and Jade sometimes poke their heads out from behind the trees, presumably to let people know that these secret characters exist. And finally, Noob Saibot is just the last names of the lead designer John Tobias and lead programmer Ed Boon, spelled backwards. And once again, like last time, rumors spread about a red ninja. But this time, it was that in the arcade version there's a glitch where Kitana will turn into a red female ninja the fans dubbed Scarlet. And again, a magazine ended up publishing fake images of this quote-unquote glitch. Returning to the plot, like last time, by winning a game as a certain character, you see what would happen if they won, and learn some more information about them in the process. Notably, we learned that through her years of working as an assassin, Kitana has learned many secrets, especially about her own past. And she finds out that Melina is not her twin, but a grotesque clone created by Shang Tsung. And she learns that her parents were the former rulers of Outworld, overthrown by Shao Kahn. Determined to take back what's rightfully hers, she resolves to defeat Shao Kahn herself, doing so by entering the tournament. Kahn, however, is suspicious of Kitana's motivations and orders Melina to watch Kitana for any dissension and put a stop to it at all costs. Speaking of Melina, Baraka and Melina seem to be in a situationship, as they seem to like each other but deny it in regular interactions in later games.
I will never mate with you, Baraka.
That's rough, buddy.
Also, Melina is a traitorous rat who plans on betraying Shao Kahn. And the same is also true for Shang Tsung. Speaking of Baraka, we find out that his fits of anger makes him attack his own allies. So, that's something. As for who won the tournament, well, like last time there was only one champion. One who fought their way past Kintaro to face the mighty Emperor in a pitched life-or-death battle. And that champion was once again Liu Kang, the still undefeated champion of the Earthrealm. In having defended his title and saved the day, he then returns to the seclusion of the Shaolin temples and begins paying his respects to his fallen brothers, realizing that all of these events were all part of his destiny. After the defeat of Shao Kahn, Jax was able to rescue Sonya, but Kano, slippery as ever, escaped. And Johnny Cage, upon returning home, makes a sequel to Mortal Kombat called Mortal Kombat 2. I should also point out that Sonya and Kano getting kidnapped was hella unfortunate, but in case you didn't notice, Sonya's entire team did die on the island. MK3. This would not be the end, however, as the second tournament was merely a diversion, and it was finally time to enact the plot Shao Kahn began so long ago. A plan to break the rules of the Elder Gods by reincarnating Queen Sindel on Earthrealm, thereby allowing him to step through the dimensional gates to reclaim his queen, thus enabling him to invade and seize the Earthrealm. And after breaching the portal, he slowly transforms the planet into a part of Outworld and strips the Earth of all human life, claiming every soul as his own. But he can't claim the souls of the warriors chosen to represent Earth in a new Mortal Kombat. These warriors are scattered, and Khan sent an army to eliminate them. This army includes several familiar faces, like Baraka and Shang Tsung, who despite falling out of favor of Khan for failing to win the tournament, has proved instrumental in making the invasion happen. Seeing as how he was the one who set this into motion with Quan Chi all those years ago. As such, he has been granted more power than ever. I swear, this guy just keeps failing upwards. Also in this army is Kano. He was still in Outworld following the events of MK2, and upon getting captured by Kahn once again, he was able to convince Kahn to spare his soul, saying Kahn needs someone to teach his warriors how to use Earth's weapons, and that he is the man to do it. Although, like basically everyone who works for Kahn, Kano plans on betraying him. And to be fair, he kinda did deserve it. Kahn doesn't really have any loyalty himself. Like, for instance, during this invasion, Shang Tsung discovers that Kahn plans on taking Shang Tsung's soul once the remaining warriors are disposed of. So, yeah, I can see why there's a high turnover rate in Shao Kahn's army. Speaking of this, with the return of Sindel, Kahn handpicks the Shokan Shiva to serve as her personal protector. But Shiva rightly starts to become suspicious of Kahn's loyalty towards her race of Shokan when he places Motaro as the head of the extermination squads, as Motaro's race of Centaurians are the natural enemy of the Shokan. But still, maybe Kahn was cooking here, because the first thing Motaro does is kill the self-absorbed jokester, Johnny Cage. A crucial death, taking out one of their strongest fighters and one of their closest allies. I mean, this is kind of insane. Johnny Cage is one of the main guys of Mortal Kombat, to the point that he's the main character in the new movie. So, Motaro is actually catching W's here. And sure, Motaro did have the whole squad with him, so it's not like Johnny went down in a 1v1, but this is a monumental blow for the Defenders of the Realms, regardless. Now, not all of Kahn's forces are focused on the invasion, however, as Kahn has made finding his daughter Kitana a priority. As it turns out, during the last game, Melina confronted Kitana, and Kitana murdered Melina. Now, Kitana is accused of treason by the High Courts, yet in spite of this, she managed to escape into the unknown regions of Earth, and now Shao Kahn himself has appointed 2 warriors to go catch her and bring her back alive. Jade, who's already the one assigned to watch over Kitana, and Reptile, who's a reliable servant. Unknown to Jade, however, is that Reptile has been given secret orders to stop Kitana at all costs, even if it means killing her. Even promising Reptile that if he's successful in the mission, he will resurrect Reptile species. However, Shao Kahn is full of it, and has no intention of fulfilling his promise. While I'm on the topic, I'd like to mention that although Reptile species is basically extinct, he might not be the last one left, as in the last game, Shang Tsung was allegedly going to put some in slavery. I doubt those ones are still alive, but still, maybe there are some others still out there. Anyways, as Reptile and Jade hunt her down, Kitana's trying to find a way to reach her mother, Queen Sindel, who's brainwashed by Shao Kahn into being evil, and tell her the truth about her past. As for the Earthrealmers, the Mortal Kombat champion Liu Kang has begun training a new generation of Shaolin alongside Kung Lao, when the unexpected invasion began. Kung Lao, who's away trying to reunite the White Lotus Society, returned to focus on the invasion. There, he finds Liu Kang, and together, they went off to battle Kahn's forces. Jax, on the other hand, knew the invasion was coming, and tried to convince his superiors of this fact, but failed. So he prepares for battle by fitting both arms with indestructible bionic implants. Presumably the same ones he used back in Special Forces. And then he heads out to the fight alongside Lieutenant Sonya Blade. As for the Protector of Earthrealm, well, Raiden finds himself banished in the merger between Earth and Outworld, becoming unable to interfere any longer as Earth is now ruled by Outworld gods. Left with no choice, he pleads with the Elder Gods for their assistance. But like always, the Elder Gods refuse to help. Something we are going to have to get used to. Raiden glazes the Elder Gods as much as Daniel glazes Mr. Miyagi, but when push comes to shove, they are the biggest bums in this series. Raiden will be like, "Please help us, Elder Gods. Earthrealm is going to die." And they'll be like,
Nah, I don't really feel like it.
And so, with no other options, he is forced to take matters into his own hands. He transforms himself into a mortal warrior to fight alongside his human comrades. risking his place in the pantheon of gods and giving up his own immortality in the process. But the main cast weren't the only warriors chosen to protect Earthrealm. There were others as well, namely Cabal, Striker, and Nightwolf. Cabal was attacked by Shao Kahn's extermination squad and became viciously scarred as a result. He's now only kept alive by his artificial respirators in a rage for ending Shao Kahn's conquest. But it's not all bad though, as he has super speed now. The 2011 game does give an explanation as to why, but it doesn't really fit in with this timeline, so I'm just gonna assume this weird respirator is the cause of this. In any case, we find out that before the invasion, Cabal had led a life of crime, actually once being a member of the Black Dragons, alongside Kano. But now, Cabal devotes his life to fighting injustice, giving crime's inner circle something to fear. Curtis Striker, on the other hand, also devoted his life to fighting injustice. He was the leader of a riot control brigade when Shao Kahn began taking souls. He now finds himself as the lone survivor in a city that once populated millions. Having no clue what the hell is going on or why his soul was spared, he begins fighting Shao Kahn's forces. As for Nightwolf, he works as a historian and preserver of his people's Native American culture. But when Khan's portal opens up over North America, Nightwolf uses the magic of his shaman to protect his tribe's sacred land. This area becomes a vital threat to Khan's occupation of Earth, as the scattered Earthrealm warriors all receive a vision from Raiden instructing them to head there. And finally united, Raiden fills them in on what's happening, and together they form a plan of attack against Shao Kahn. And the final assault against Outworld's forces begins. But before we go over that, what about Sub-Zero, I hear you asking? Well, when Kuei Liang returned from Outworld after the events of MK2, he found out that the Lin Kuei had advanced their technology and created the Cyber Assassins, converting their human ninjas into soulless machines. Sub-Zero, however, refused to be cyberized and was marked for death by his own clan. Hunted by soulless automatons, he manages to escape from his clan, but is scarred in the process. At this point, the Earth's invasion begins, and when everyone's souls were taken, so too were the Lin Kuei. All except for chosen warrior Sub-Zero and the 3 cyborgs who hunt him down. Mainly, the ketchup and mustard duo Sector and Cyrax, as well as the one and only Smoke. All spared because they have no soul for Shao Kahn to take. Sector, as revealed in later games, was the son of the Grand Master, and due to his loyalty to the clan, he was actually the first one to volunteer to be cyberized. Cyrax is his partner, and Smoke was actually Sub-Zero's best friend. He also tried to escape the automation process with Sub-Zero, but was captured, and he had his memory stripped away, leaving behind an emotionless killer. But Sub-Zero refuses to accept this, believing that within this machine is a human soul trying to escape. Now, as you may have noticed, MK3 does not have a comic, but where it differs from the previous games is that there are multiple versions of this game. There is the base MK3, Ultimate MK3, and MK Trilogy. The main differences between them being that each version added characters who were missing from the roster, with the base game roster only having 7 of the characters from the first 2 games, which is low-key kinda scuffed, while MK Trilogy, the final version, has like everybody. This time around, they introduced the iconic Animality, which is a finisher in which the fighters turn into an animal to destroy their opponent. To this day, I will never get over them making Scorpion a penguin. We have some interesting new characters as well. In the Attract movie, which is basically the screen that plays when the arcade is idle, they show a purple ninja named Rain fighting in it. However, he wasn't actually in the game, and if you pay attention, they even made his name a different font, so if you took a picture, people would think it's fake. This is absolutely to drive people to play the game and try to find him, even though he doesn't exist. Some master level trolling, might I add. He would eventually be made real in the home ports in which he was added. Rain, who has water powers by the way, if you couldn't tell based on the name, was born in Kitana's former world of Edenia. He was smuggled away from the realm as a small child shortly after Shao Kahn took over. And thousands of years later, he resurfaced, but chose to betray his homeland rather than suffer at the hands of Khan's extermination squads. As a result, he fights for Khan, until, because of Kitana, he learns that his father was a general in Edenia's army, and died at the hands of Shao Kahn. He then joins Kitana in aligning with Earthrealm. But after his loyalty is questioned because he mysteriously disappeared during an attack, he goes to prove his loyalty by going on a suicide mission to destroy Shao Kahn. Interestingly, his dad being an Edenian general is not true, as we actually meet his dad later. But Kitana could just be misinformed here, although it would be really funny if she was just gaslighting him into joining them. Also, they never said if his suicide mission succeeded, just that he left to go do it, because in the future, Rain is still alive. Also, I'm just gonna spell it out for you in case you didn't get it. He's based on the Prince song, Purple Rain. Speaking of rumors becoming real, we have the one and only Red Ninja, Ermac. Here we discover that Ermac exists as a life force brought together by the souls of extinguished Outworld warriors. Shao Kahn had managed to take possession of these souls and use them to fight on the side of tyranny. Having been in hiding since the first Mortal Kombat, neither the Earth nor the Outworld had recognized this elusive ninja, but his victory here will prove his existence. The ending portion of his bio is obviously a reference to the rumors surrounding his existence, since all the way back in the first game, and him proving his existence is definitely the fact that he is finally real. But they aren't all rumored characters becoming real though, because we also have Chameleon and Chameleon. Chameleon with a C debuted in MK Trilogy as a male ninja with partial transparency that changed colors. Like his name suggests, he actually possesses all of the abilities of every single male ninja to appear up to this point, with his body changing color like a chameleon to signify the powers of whichever ninja he's currently mimicking. And he's described as being one of Shao Kahn's deadliest warriors. However, in the Nintendo 64 version of MK Trilogy, he was replaced by Chameleon with a K. Chameleon, if you will, who has the exact same powers as Chameleon, except she mimics the female ninjas. She also doesn't change color, she is just gray, but her name written at the top does change color. She is then revealed to be the exact same species as Reptile, and that she alone knows the truth about their history, and she fights for Earth, making the last survivors of their species enemies. It's also from Chameleon's ending that we discover the truth about the Saurians that I mentioned earlier. Also of note is that Chameleon with a C was also intended to be a Saurian, meaning reptile species actually consists of him, Chameleon, and Chameleon. Turning our attention back to the story, we arrive at the climax of the invasion. With Khan's forces winning, he, for whatever reason, decides to divide his attention and try to overtake the Netherrealm as well. I imagine it is at this point that Mileena finds herself having been brought back to life by Shao Kahn himself. Or at least, that's what he thinks happened. In reality, Mileena ended up in the Netherrealm, where she accepted servitude to Shinnok, and it was Shinnok who allowed her soul to be reborn in Outworld. And now, with her loyalty to Khan being replaced by fear of Shinnok, she plans on overthrowing her father to allow Shinnok to come and take both realms. It's also revealed Mileena also has the ability to read Kitana's mind, apparently. I guess Shinnok gave her that power, because she definitely didn't have that before. Speaking of the Netherrealm, we have the return of Noob Saibot, which revealed that he is a part of the Brotherhood of Shadow and worships Shinnok. He had been sent to spy on the battle and report back to his leaders, but during the battle, he receives orders to side with Khan, but when Khan drops his guard, to attack. That way, so when both Earthrealm and Khan are defeated, Shinnok can take both realms and get the power to strike back at the Elder Gods who banished him. Anyways, Khan's plan to overtake the Netherrealm goes awry, but as a result of his actions, Scorpion ends up being inadvertently released from his damnation in hell. Now free to roam the Earth, Scorpion, being a neutral character, takes no sides, but is enlisted by the Emperor to aid him in his quest to destroy the Chosen Warriors. And low-key, Scorpion fighting for the enemy? Don't we have enough problems? Kahn literally walked up to him and said, "Hey, wanna help me take over the Earth Realm?" And he said, "Yeah, I got nothing else going on." Still, it's not all bad, because Scorpion isn't the only one who returns. Johnny Cage actually managed to cheat death when his path to the afterlife is blocked by the Merger and Outworld. With his soul taking possession of his body once again, he was able to rejoin his friends to battle for Earth's survival. But during their battle, he learns that if they win against Kahn, his soul will again be deceased when Earth reverts back to normal. But even knowing this is a one-way mission, he embarks to destroy Shao Kahn, with his determination fueling his fellow warriors as they embark on one final onslaught against the evil Emperor. Meanwhile, Sub-Zero is facing Sector and Cyrax, when out of nowhere, Smoke arrives and Sub-Zero, not giving up on his friend, helps him recall his past. And with Smoke learning he still has a soul, he teams up with Sub-Zero to beat the two cyborg assassins. Together, they now join the fight against Shao Kahn, with Sub-Zero even managing to capture Cyrax and reprogram him to believe his mission is to destroy Shao Kahn. The tides continue to turn when Scorpion's allegiance to Kahn falters. You see, in battle, he had discovered that one of the Chosen Warriors is Sub-Zero, who he has vowed to protect as restitution for killing his brother. And so Scorpion pulls an Italy and switches sides, joining the fight against Kahn. As the warriors engage the Outworld forces, Sonya comes face to face with her arch-rival Kano, fighting him atop a skyscraper near Shao Kahn's fortress. And as mighty as Kano is, he is no match for Sonya Blade's fury. At long last, justice is done, and Sonya has avenged her partner. Or so she thinks. You see, Kano was severely injured and would have perished had Motaro not seen the fight. The Centaur ends up bringing Kano back to Shao Kahn's fortress and revives him with magic. As this goes on, Shiva, back on Earth, learns that her race of Shokan are being punished in the Outworld, as Kahn now favors Motaro's race of Centaurians and is aiding them in defeating the Shokan. Upon learning these events, she turns on her master and unleashes her rage upon Motaro, killing him.
Are you sure about that?
Because Motaro would barely survive. Back with Kano, however, upon being revived, Shao Kahn incarcerated him for his failure. At that moment, however, Shiva launched an assassination attempt against the Emperor, but Kano, seeing an opportunity here, prevented his assassination. Grateful for this, Shao Kahn promoted Kano to General and ordered him to portal back to the last remnants of Outworld to gather more troops for the final push against the Earthrealm opposition. Still, Shiva's defection had consequences, as now no one was guarding Queen Sindel, and so Kitana made her move. This led to a fight between her and Jade and Reptile. You see, Jade was once a close friend of Princess Kitana, but now has to either betray her friend or disobey her emperor. But in the final moments, when Reptile went to assassinate Kitana, Jade thwarted his attempt, choosing instead to assist her longtime friend. And while Jade and the Earthrealm warriors held off the Outworld enemies, a path was opened up for Kitana to try and turn Sindel against Shao Kahn. Reaching her mother, she is able to get through to her and reminds her of the truth. Sindel then receives visions of her true past and turns against Shao Kahn. This all comes to a head when the Earthrealm forces finally reach Kahn. And like all games before this, there can only be one champion, and that man is Kung Lao. The Shaolin monk engages Shao Kahn in a fight, and against a hat with razor blades, what is the Dark Emperor to do? Except hit him with the shoulder charge and smash him with his mallet, of course. Side note, Shao Kahn is genuinely unfair, literally designed to steal your quarters. Unfortunately, Kung Lao didn't know this, and dies in the encounter. Seeing the apparent death of his best friend right before his eyes, Liu Kang, reigning champion of Mortal Kombat, is enraged, and begins fighting the Emperor. With flying fists and bicycle kicks, Liu Kang digs deep and does again what he has already done once before, and that is find the strength to defeat the terrible Shao Kahn. That's right, you know the GOAT did a 3-peat, straight hat-tricking on the ops right now. With the Emperor defeated, the portal to Outworld begins to close. But before it does, Liu Kang is greeted by Kitana and thanked for saving Earth and Outworld. This is also the first hint at their relationship. And so, the Earthrealm warriors emerge victorious, and the realms revert back to their normal state, including Kitana's realm of Edenia. For some reason, none of the other realms Khan conquered turned back to normal, so this was literally just favoritism or something. Either way, it is said Kitana will be forever in debt to her friends from Earth, as she rules the new realm of Edenia at Queen Sindel's side. As for Johnny, he bids farewell to his comrades, as his soul leaves to a higher place. But not everyone went to a higher place. Once again, Scorpion finds himself roaming the pits of hell, only to one day rise again. Once the world went back to normal, Sonya Blade and Jax had no trouble convincing their superiors to start the Outer World Investigation Agency, an agency devoted to protecting Earth against future invasions from other realms, with Jax running the exploratory division, which learns to open portals through science rather than magic. And finally, since Khan was defeated, Cyrax awaits new orders from the Lin Kuei headquarters. Orders that never come, causing him to malfunction and end up stranded in the middle of the desert, blindly trying to head back towards his base. And with this, MK3 comes to a close, and so does the threat of Shao Kahn and Outworld. But it's not over yet, because if you recall, we have one big threat left to address: Shinnok. And here we arrive at the MK4 comic book. Now, assuming the MK timeline matches up with what was presented in the flashbacks of MKX, then 2 years have passed since the conclusion of MK3. Kitana and Sindel are working together to rebuild Edenia, when Sindel sentences Reptile to a life of hard labor in the cobalt mines for his crimes with Shao Kahn. A sentence that gives me severe flashbacks of MK Conquest. If you know, you know. But Reptile, defiant, says he is proud to have served Shao Kahn. Which is interesting, since it seems Reptile will work for anyone who can grant him his wishes. I would have thought he would have gone for more sympathetic routes, but no one ever claimed Reptile was smart. Interestingly, in the game, they say he was banished to the Netherrealm for committing genocide against several species, being responsible for the death of millions. Something that shocked me, because what do you mean bro has a Frieza level body count? I did not know Reptile was moving like that. But if we were to take both of these as canon, that means he got murked frame 1 in the cobalt mines. Yo, those miners do not mess around. Anyways, at this point, an Edenian woman named Tanya shows up. Tanya is the daughter of Edenia's ambassador to the New Realms, and she invites a group of refugees fleeing their own world into the safety of Edenia. Tanya then allows a man to see Sindel. This man claims to be in trouble and gives Sindel an orb. But this man is actually Quan Chi, and this is a trap, tricking Sindel. While this is going on, Kitana is trying to make peace between the Shokans and the Centaurians. Which, when you think about it, is beef between 4 arms and 4 legs. When all of a sudden, Goro arrives in the middle of the peace talks, and everyone is shook by this, acting like, yo, aren't you supposed to be dead? And he explains that he's been in hiding for years, ashamed of his defeat in Mortal Kombat, and unwilling to serve Shao Kahn. But now that Shao Kahn is gone, he is taking his father's place as the ruler of the Shokan. Why did he not want to serve Shao Kahn? He was indirectly serving him during the tournament. Did he just dislike his treatment of his people? That's typically the reason for Shokan allegiances switching, so I'm gonna assume that's the case. Regardless, he walks in like Shanks and says the war is over, and he will crush any who opposes him. Cutting back to Sindel, the orb given to her turns into a portal that allows Shinnok to enter Edenia, as well as hundreds of demons, along with the #1 Shao Kahn knob slobber, Reiko, and the goat, Scorpion. And Shinnok, upon finally escaping the Netherrealm, wants to confront the Elder Gods and get revenge against the god who banished him, Raiden, before finally taking his place as ruler of all reality. But for the record, Shinnok literally wants every mortal dead, because he doesn't care about ruling, he just wants power. Meanwhile, on Earth, Sub-Zero goes to the Temple of Elements, having been told where it was by his brother Bi-Han. Sub-Zero has come to make peace with the gods of the elements that Bi-Han fought, but finds that the temple is unguarded, before he sees something in the sky. Meanwhile, Liu Kang is training a man named Kuei. Kai is a former member of the White Lotus Society, having learned his skills from great masters throughout Asia, before meeting Liu Kang in America and becoming his student. The two monks then see something fall out of the sky, and when they investigate, they find Fujin, obviously beaten up, meaning he is no doubt about to claim the other guy ran away. In Shanghai, Sonya tracked down Jarek, who's the last member of the Black Dragon still alive after the whooping Jax gave them all those years ago. Because while Sonya no longer works for the Special Forces, she vowed to capture every member of the Black Dragons before she begins working for the Outworld Investigation Agency. And she used the agency's resources to track him down. But Jarek beats her in a fight and escapes, which is actually kinda high-key impressive. Sonya is strong. But as Jarek is escaping, Sonya has got him in her sights and is about to shoot him dead, when Jax calls her at that moment and says something is going down in China. Interestingly, Jarek's bio does state Sonya disappeared and that Jax tracked her down and discovered she was fighting the forces of Shinnok, but that clearly seems not to be the case. So, reconcile that however you will. Regardless, at that moment, a chopper with Johnny Cage pulls up. It's explained that although Cage's soul left to a higher place, from the heavens he observed his friends once again engaged in battle, when he learned of the war waged against the Elder Gods by Shinnok. Cage asked Raiden to help him restore his deceased soul and join Liu Kang in his quest, something Raiden agreed to and brought him back to join the fight. And apparently, Jax saw his friend come back from the dead, and his immediate first reaction was, "Yeah, alright, I guess you can come along, but only as long as you don't touch anything." This also means Raiden can bring people back from the dead, something he will never do again. But perhaps Johnny was a special case due to all the shenanigans his soul went through during the last game. Either way, Johnny Cage immediately starts flirting with Sonya, and she says, and I quote, "Dream on, Cage, massive strikeout. Maybe." So wait, that's a maybe? I also just want to emphasize that these two really do not seem to care that their friend came back to life. Although, to be fair, this is like the second time. We once again come back to Liu Kang and Kai, who are trying to defend Fujin from demons, when Raiden shows up. He explains that Fujin fell from the heavens while defending the Elder God's palace from Shinnok's attacks, and that Shinnok sneak attacked them by going through Edenia. Does Edenia lead to the Elder Gods? Raiden says Fujin and him are the last of the Earth's gods, meaning, at the bare minimum, the other three gods from the Temple of Elements are dead. He continues by saying the Elder Gods have been weakened by Shinnok's attack. Not that it would make much of a difference though. These guys never do anything anyways. So, if they're going to win, they need to have a planned attack. And their plan is that Raiden and Fujin will go to the Eternal Palace and battle Shinnok's forces, while Liu Kang gathers Earth's warriors and returns to Edenia to continue the fight there. At that moment, Sonya and Johnny pull up in a helicopter, and Liu Kang fills his friends in on the situation. And then Sub-Zero shows up, saying that Shinnok is evil incarnate, and that Beyond had an encounter with Shinnok, and that may have caused this whole thing. And now, all these years later, it's finally time to end it. With everyone agreeing to fight, Sonya uses technology to make a portal, and they go to Edenia and confront Quan Chi. This takes us straight into the event of MK4. And Liu Kang and the others, as we saw in the comic, head to Edenia. While there, Liu Kang hears about Kitana being captured and tries to rescue her, but he fails. He then mounts an effort with Earth's greatest warriors to try again, hoping to free Kitana, her realm of Edenia, and defeat Shinnok. While here, Sonya notably is fighting for her life on her first mission ever with the Outworld Investigation Agency, knowing that she has to survive long enough in order to go back home and warn the government of the threat of Shinnok. And speaking of the threat of Shinnok, the forces of darkness have assembled quite a team here. Of course, we have Shinnok's arch-sorcerer Quan Chi, who is powerful in his own right and plans on betraying Shinnok the first chance he gets. But we also have some notable generals and soldiers, including General Reiko. Reiko has been a longtime supporter of Shinnok, actually leading the forces of darkness against the Elder Gods during Shinnok's rebellion a millennia ago. After that point, he was thought killed, but he resurfaces in the battle against Earth's forces. Another general fighting for Shinnok is the #1 jobber in MK, Reptile. It's revealed he's working for Shinnok because he thinks Shinnok can send him back in time to his homeworld before it was destroyed by Shao Kahn. Spoilers? They won't. They plan on killing Reptile after this. I don't know why he trusted the word of someone literally called the God of Evil. Of course, as revealed in the last game, Mileena and Noob Saibot are both also working for Shinnok. On top of this, however, Mileena wants to avenge her death against Kitana and also find a way to escape her fearful servitude to Shinnok. He really left her shook, huh? And she comes up with the plan to free Kitana, hoping to kill her and take her place, escaping Shinnok by pretending to be Kitana. Quan Chi also went out and recruited Baraka. You see, Baraka, as a nomad, was wandering when Quan Chi approached him with the offer to rule at his side. Eager to return to the battle, Baraka accepts. But this will not end well for Baraka, because even if they win, he will hate the Netherrealm's reign, and he will be killed when he tries to rebel, so it's kind of a lose-lose situation. Next, Quan Chi approached Scorpion and made him an offer he can't refuse. He will bring him back to life in exchange for his services as a warrior against the Elder Gods. Scorpion, of course, accepts, but he secretly has an ulterior motive. He wants to kill the person who murdered his clan, Subzero. The only problem here being that Quan Chi was actually the one who killed his clan, but Quan Chi lied to Scorpion and said it was the second Sub-Zero who killed them. And if you're wondering how Scorpion is just now finding out his family died, keep in mind he died before them and then avoided seeing them because he didn't want them to see him like this. So when Quan Chi informed them that they were dead and it was actually the second Sub-Zero who did it, we get another classic revenge plot, except this time it's all manipulated by Quan Chi. Well, that was the original story, but if you remember the retcon from Sub-Zero mythologies, I guess the real answer here is that Scorpion is just very easily gaslit. Interestingly, like last time, there's still characters who seem to be off doing something else entirely. Like, well, I was gonna say the one and only, but that's not quite accurate. Kung Lao. You see, while many believed Kung Lao had died from his injuries suffered in the final fight against Shao Kahn, he in fact had barely survived and turned to a new life without violence, in reverence to his ancestral beliefs. This is perhaps a reference to his ending in which he met the great Kung Lao after dying in MK3, now reinterpreted as him just reconnecting with his ancestral beliefs. Which makes more sense since his ancestor's soul was devoured by Shang Tsung. Of course, MK 2011 will reveal that Kung Lao is actually the reincarnation of the great Kung Lao, something that is also impossible because his soul was devoured by Shang Tsung. Unless, of course, Shang Tsung just released the great Kung Lao's soul for some reason. Well, in any case, with the news of Shinnok's threat and Goro's return, Kung Lao returns once more to challenge his ancestor's killer. And like, bruh, he's literally in the middle of a Netherrealm invasion and is more preoccupied with getting revenge. He's gotta get his priorities straight. Funnily enough, Goro's actually on the same page as him, as it stated Goro is seeking revenge against the great Kung Lao's ancestor, Liu Kang. And, like, do they mean descendant? Are Liu Kang and Kung Lao distant relatives? In any case, while these two are off on their respective revenge quests, we discovered that the Lin Kuei rescued Cyrax from his desert prison. And while the physical damage he sustained was easy to repair, Cyrax seems different now, leading Sector to become suspicious of the effect of Cyrax's prolonged exile in the desert. But still determined to hunt down Subzero, the Lin Kuei are forced to send Cyrax since their forces are vastly reduced. And Sector goes with them, but his orders are to watch and report on Cyrax, with his reports determining whether this is Cyrax's last mission. Like the last game, MK4 also has multiple versions with MK4 and MK Gold. And again, the main difference is the addition of certain characters. This is also the first mainline Mortal Kombat game to feature 3D models rather than the traditional photorealistic visuals from the prior games. This game was also the first to have a weapon system and also introduced sidestepping. Returning to the plot, while Cyrax was hunting for Sub-Zero, he ended up finding Jax and Sonya. No, it was Scorpion who ended up finding Sub-Zero, and in Goro's lair, these two fought. Scorpion, of course, was the winner, but just as he was going to kill the very man he had previously sworn to protect, he claims he has avenged the deaths of his family and clan, and his soul can finally rest. But Kuei Liang says that he can't rest because while the Lin Kuei did kill him, they did not kill his family, so their murderer is still free. Then, Quan Chi arrives, saying it was he who killed Scorpion's family, and he did all this because he needed the power of a Spectre to defeat Sub-Zero, who is a threat. And then, Quan Chi uses magic to send Scorpion to the Netherrealm. But before he does, Scorpion hits the dash and sends both of them to the Netherrealm, trapping them both there, and condemning Quan Chi to a fate of being unceasingly hunted down by Scorpion. And like, why did Quan Chi start monologuing about his evil plan? He did not need to tell Scorpion he tricked him into working for him, and that he killed Scorpion's family. Bro had no idea who did it. He could have easily gotten away with it, and instead, he will canonically spend the better part of a decade running from an whooping. Now, Kitana managed to escape the guards and heads off into battle against Shinnok and Quan Chi, with the future of Edenia resting on her shoulders, only to be confronted by her sister, Mileena. And Mileena tells Kitana that she wants her status. She wants to be Princess of Edenia. But Kitana says she has no right to the throne, as she was merely born of Shang Tsung's sorcery and is not her sister. She is evil and does not deserve to live. And Mileena says, if I have no right, then neither will you, and goes to attack Kitana. Just then, however, Kitana activates a trapdoor and Mileena falls into a pit. Goddamn Looney Tunes ending for real. And I mean, this is made even worse by the fact that Mileena in this game has the ability to read Kitana's mind, meaning she rushed at Kitana and said, she's thinking of pulling a lever and setting me into a trapdoor. Wait, what? Uh-oh. By the way, Mileena survives the fall and is arrested. Now, like every Mortal Kombat game, there is only one champion, and there's truly only one man we can count on to get the job done. Liu Kang. Now, in spite of how strong Liu is, he is still immortal, so fighting an Elder God, fallen or otherwise, is still above his pay grade. But just when all seems darkest, hope comes in the form of betrayal. Quan Chi had given Shinnok a duplicate amulet, keeping the real one for himself. So Shinnok is not really at the same level of power he was all those years ago, meaning the immortal champion of Mortal Kombat actually has a chance, and a chance is all he needs. And Liu Kang ultimately prevails, defeating Shinnok and banishing him back to the Netherrealm once again. 4-game sweep. What a unit! After Shinnok's defeat, Shinnok's forces were also banished to the Netherrealm, with Reptile and Baraka returning to Outworld. And they weren't the only ones. Reiko survived and went through a portal where he sat on a throne and put on Shao Kahn's helmet. An enigmatic scene that left many curious what was going on with him. Until it was eventually revealed that Reiko was also formerly Shao Kahn's most trusted general, and had a tendency to enter Shao Kahn's private chambers when no one was around to wear his helmet, just because he wants to be like Shao Kahn. What a loser! Now, timeline-wise, this bare minimum means Reiko was around during the war with Shinnok and Raiden tens of thousands of years ago, and somehow came back and served Shao Kahn, and then ended up serving Shinnok once again in MK4. This is kinda strange, since Reiko's legacy is as the #1 Shao Kahn Glazer, while his origins stem from serving Shinnok. With the dust settled, Liu Kang knows he has defended the Earth, but worries he has failed to save Edenia, and in doing so, has lost Kitana forever. At that moment, a portal arrives and Kitana comes through it, explaining that Shinnok's destruction not only saved Earth, but also Edenia, and she offers Liu Kang the chance to rule at her side as the king of Edenia forever. Liu Kang, however, says he cannot accept, as he belongs on Earth as champion of Mortal Kombat, and he has to protect the Earth should it ever fall under attack again. And Kitana says she wishes him luck on all his journeys, and leaves. As for what happened with the other Earthrealmers, Jarek was part of the Earthrealm forces which helped defeat Shinnok, but he did not agree to turn himself in to the Special Forces, saying that the Black Dragons will live on. Unfortunately for him, he is confronted by Jax, who finishes what he started all those years ago.
This is not a brutality, this is a fatality.
Spoiler alert though, Jarek once again is still alive. Man, Jax really sucks at finishing this guy off. But after quote-unquote finishing off the Black Dragons, he and Sonya go to meet with Cyrax. During his time in the desert, Cyrax started malfunctioning, and during the fight with Shinnok, he started getting flashbacks. Cyrax had since gone to Sonya and Jax, who he met during the war, and reveals he plans to revert back to human form and regain his memories. Sonya and Jax help by using the Outworld Protection Agency's technology to do an experiment on him. And it works, with Cyrax removing his helmet, fully human once again. And his new friends offer for him to join the Outworld Investigation Agency as a scout in Outworld, something that he accepts. Now, while this is going on, Sector was secretly watching Cyrax turn himself human and planned to attack them, but he kinda sucks at his job because nothing comes of this. Either he never attacked or he tried and got whooped. El Bozo, what a loser. In further good news, after the events of MK4, Johnny Cage was able to remain alive and returned to Hollywood, making a new movie and winning an award. But during the award ceremony, he acts like an a-hole, leading the crowd to turn on him. Classic Johnny Cage. It's good to have him back. Finally, Raiden congratulates Kai, saying he's a true Shaolin warrior. But Kai says he doesn't want to be a Shaolin warrior, as he has too many problems to deal with, deciding he will wander the earth in search for his soul. Hearing this, Raiden gives him his lightning staff, saying that if he uses it well, it can show him the way to immortality. It says use it well, you earned it. And after saying goodbye to Kuei, Raiden hears from the Elder Gods that in light of his recent accomplishments, the Elder Gods have decided to make Raiden one of them, and promotes him to the position of Elder God, telling him to pick a successor that will take his place as the protector of Earthrealm. And he picks Fujin, the God of Wind. Meanwhile, in Outworld, Kitana and Goro are in negotiations. Kitana coerces Goro to sign a peace treaty with the Centaurs, and Goro concedes. But at that moment, a razor hat slices across his chest, and Kung Lao jumps down to where Goro is. Goro stands and prepares to kill Kung Lao, but he gestures for peace. After explaining how the blow was only a ceremonial strike of revenge for the ancestor he killed, he says he doesn't want to fight, and only wants to settle the differences between them. Then, the two unite and shake hands. And I don't think there's a better place to end this video. It started with the fight between Goro and the Great Kung Lao, and it ends with Goro and the Kung Lao settling their differences. So, this is where we'll leave the Mortal Kombat story for now. Earthrealm is safe, Edenia is restored, and Shao Kahn and Shinnok have been defeated. But the story doesn't end there. So be sure to smash that subscribe button, because next time I'm covering the entire story of the 3D era of Mortal Kombat. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. Peace.